Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Bell Custom. So today we're going to do a work in progress video of taking the Sideshow Collectibles premium format Power Girl statue, and we're going to make a head display stand for the heads. Now, she comes with two heads, and the second head, if you're not displaying it, it's either sitting in a box or a shelf. A while back I did a few statues where I made custom head display stands. I did it for like the Harley Quinn, the Joker, the Catwoman, Batman, Superman, Deadpool. So I really didn't. I stopped doing that because it's so much work. I mean, it's a really lot of work to actually design something, make it work, mold, cast, paint. It's a ton of work, and I don't think people really understand that much. But since I am doing a couple versions of Power Girl for my own collection this year, I want to have head display stands for the extra heads. So I don't want to take the heads and put them in a box or put them on the ground or put them on the shelf or something like that. I want to display them. So I decided that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a head display stand for her for my own collection. But since I need about 2 or 3 of them, I have to make a mold anyway. So I decided I'm going to make a mold. I'm going to make up a bunch of them, and I'm going to do a small run. So I'm going to let the Patreons, if any of my Patreon members want to get first dibs on it, they'll be able to get one, and then whatever's extra I'll put up on my website. And if you're looking for a head display stand, I'm going to be doing it for Power Girl. And I'm going to go over what I have set up so far, but I'm not going to be doing like 20, 25 of these things. I'm probably going to limit it to maybe like 11 or 15. I'm not really sure. It all depends on how much mold and resin is, because materials have skyrocketed in price. And I do have a gallon kit, which is 1 gallon of A, 1 gallon of B of resin I haven't opened yet, that I need for some bases. But I think I'm going to use up that kit and make up a couple copies of this. Then I'll prep them, I'll paint them, and I'll get them done, and that'll be about it. I'm going to go a little bit more bigger and a little bit more extravagant with this one, because I really want to have it displayed on my shelf for my own personal collection. So we'll see how many I can make off afterwards. But for right now, let's focus on the head bases. So as you can see right here, I have a couple different display pieces of busts. Now, to give you guys a little bit of a background, there's a place called CG Trader, and if you go onto that site, you can actually purchase 3D files. And there is tons and tons of 3D files you can purchase, and I decided that I found a female bust that I really liked, and I wanted to utilize that as my base, because I want to do the sculpt work on it. I don't want to just commission somebody to do it, and then I just print it out and do it. I really want to be able to kind of have fun and make it up my own way. Now, what I did is I found a female bust, and then I found the circle base on the site. I forget how much they're. Usually the files are anywhere from like $5 to $25 a pop, depending on how complex it is. So I found the files I wanted, but the problem was I figured if I print the base out and I print the torso out, I have to sit there and I have to cut it all up and make a mess. But Iceman from my live streams is Ice Statues. I will link him Instagram in the description. He was kind enough to help me out with this, so I sent him the files and I asked him to merge the base with the torso. So he was kind enough to take the torso and he kind of merged it in, and basically it worked out pretty good. Then what I did is I went to my friend Meta John in Canada, who has a 3D printer, and I asked him to print it out. So first he printed out three files, and it turned out that these were way too small. So that's just the downside of not having a 3D printer myself and giving it to someone else. But afterwards, basically we did a little bit more measurements and everything, and we did the base, which is this one here I'll be utilizing. Now, this is much bigger than what I've done in the past. The past, I think I've gone to maybe like as far as like that for a torso, but this one I want to do a little bit bigger. So these 3 we get away. I could always utilize those for something else down the line. So right here is actually copies of the neck, because the way this neck is, it's actually got a point here. And later in the video, I'll kind of put that down of how I did this. I made these keys a while back when I was working on those other custom Power Girls I already did, because I figured I'm going to be repainting them anyway, so it was easier to make a copy then and have it out of the way, because I had some mold I needed to burn. Because when I say that, I mean I have mold. It's going to go bad if I don't utilize it, so I made 2 copies of this. Now, the head goes into these keys perfect now, as you can see. So they go in nice and clean. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go in the garage and I'm going to chop this out, and I'm going to chop this out, and I'm going to put this key on there, and then I'm going to start building the outfit, the chest, and doing all that stuff. So it's just easier to make a key this way than sit there and try to put A's and go back and forth and blah, blah, blah. So at least this is pretty much said and done. So the reason why I casted up 2 of them is one day I had some resin, I made 1 copy. Another day I was doing something else, I had resin, I made another copy. So at least we got 2 keys ready to go. Now, if we go up to the torso up here, you can see that the body, like, I think DC items from Sideshow are bigger than the Sideshow Marvel ones. It seems like they're always like different scales. So this is pretty much in scale with that torso now. So I'm going to redo the chest first, because Power Girl's chest is a little bit different. And then from there I'm going to start working out the outfit and stuff like that. And then I'll start adding the key of the head as well. So to give you guys a little bit of an idea, what we'll do is we're going to have the circle. You know, we'll have her circle. Once I work out the chest, we'll have a part over here that's going to clip on with the cape coming off the edge. The cape is not going to kind of like flow all crazy down. I'm not going to go crazy like that. Just kind of give a little bit of a design of a cape. And then for her outfit, because this outfit is sort of like this, we're going to have to sort of kind of come up around here for her outfit like this, and I'll have to paint some skin in there, but that should be fine, you know. And then we'll have the belt come down at an angle over the side, and then we'll have her lines and everything like that. Now her arms up here, I'm not really a fan of the way these arms are, so whenever I have extra A's, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to kind of create that little arm that kind of like the Sideshow stuff there. I debated on actually redoing this anyway. I was debating on like maybe cutting this out and then moving it down. But after more and more thought, I kind of like it large like this. I think it'll be a lot more fun. And I really just kind of want to do something a little bit different. So that's where I'm at right now. Once I kind of plan this out a little bit more, I'll come back into the video. Because I'm filming this now. And it might be like a week or 2 before I really come back and actually start figuring this out. Because I got to think about this in my mind a little bit more. So I think what I might end up doing right away is sort of chopping up the chest a little bit, rebuilding the chest, then working out the arms, and then getting the neck on. I don't want to put the neck on now, and then try to do the chest, because it might not line up. So I'll do the chest first, and then we'll keep going from there. Now, one of the other things, too, is it is hollow. Now, if I was to cast up this whole item, it's going to be a lot of resin. So what I might do is I'm debating if I should kind of cut around in the inside and sort of bring this little hollow part up there a little bit more. So when I cast it, at least this area in here is a little bit hollow, because this is heavy enough that it's not going to tip over or go anywhere, even with the head on top of her. So I'm not really worried about that. It'll save on resin, it'll save on a lot of stuff, and then maybe I can make actually more copies. Because if you think about it, if you save like this much resin and this much resin, and you cast up 10 of them, you're saving enough resin where you could probably make 11th and 12th one. If you fill this all in, that's just using more and more resin. So it's one of those things you got to think about. So anyway, I'm done rambling. I'm going to plan this out a little bit more. We'll come back. I'll be kind of flying through the video on kind of just re-sculpting stuff and planning stuff out. And then I also have to think about casting too, because I can't do anything crazy in here where when the casting rips out the stuff. So I have to make sure that any kind of that boob window area is not actually going in too deep and then it rips that mold. So I got to plan that out as well. But we'll go over that. But all in all, I think this is going to look really cool when done. It's going to be a nice display piece for the heads, and I won't have to worry about them sitting in a box. Okay, so I'm going to start this up, and I'm just going to kind of fly through in the video so you guys can see what's going on. But just to give you guys an idea, I went ahead and I dremelled out the chest because it was really, really low, and it sloped down. So Power Girl has a higher defying gravity, so I'm going to build that up a little bit more. Right now they look pretty small, but I wanted to... It's easier to sculpt it with Aves and sand it with Aves than to try to sculpt onto here and sand this stuff down to get it even. So I'd rather have a good layer of Aves on top and really work it out. Now I did chop up in here a little bit because it's a little bit easier to build this out than to try to work with it. So I just went ahead and did all that. Once that's done, what I'll do is once the chest is ready to go, I'll probably start working on the neck, and I'll also probably Dremel out this area to start working on her, leotard. Basically how that kind of works around there. I add some wrinkles in here and stuff. Got to kind of sand some stuff down here and there because you can see some of the, print stuff and everything like that. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. I think what I'm going to have to do is fill the inside of this too. Because I have just ordered a new case of freeform air, and it'll probably be easier to get some freeform air in here for when I'm ready to start working on the neck. So this way I don't keep pushing Aves down and down and down. So when I chop this up around here and ready to add that other piece here, I'll probably shove a bunch of freeform air in there first just to get some filler in there. And I still got to decide down here. I'm still thinking whether if I should make this hollow and just kind of bring it up a little bit in the inside just to save on resin, or if I should just make the whole thing solid. It all depends on when I'm ready to work on it. And I think I'm going to kind of bring the arms down a little bit here as well. But I might not. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool the way it is so far. So let me just keep work on the chest now because I got some A's on the side I'm going to finish up using. And I'm just in the mood to get this done before I close up shop tonight. Okay, so I'm doing this way before I even get the 3D print of the bust, female bust for the display stand for Power Girl. I probably won't get that for like a month down the line. So I figured, let me get my key made up now. So normally what I would do is I would get that knead mold stuff where you mix A and B together and you squish it and you push the head into a cup. The problem with the heads is the hair kind of goes around the bottom of it. So if I push that in there, it'll be a nightmare. I won't make the key perfect too because there's all this little trim around the edges and stuff. So I decided the best way to do this is I'm going to create a box around this item because I'm going to be customizing this anyway. So this statue with the breast augmentation is going to be done way before I actually start doing the head display stands. So I figure what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this box made up over here. I want to put some pieces over there. I'm going to hot glue all around this. And we're going to create a box. And I have that Mold Max 30 that I opened about a month ago. And you can't keep that stuff forever. It's going to go bad. So what I'll do is I'm going to hot glue all this around. Make sure there's no leakage. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up the Mold Max 30. I'm going to pour it in here. And what it's going to do is going to give me a mold of this key. And then what I could do is I can tomorrow after, it's kind of like 11 o'clock now, lunchtime tomorrow, I could pop this off. And then what I'll do is I'll have a mold for the key. I could pour resin in there, and I could make a nice good copy of this key, and then what I could do is I could put it on top of that head bust when I get it, and it'll make life a lot easier, because if I didn't have this sort of like V-neck thing here, and it was just kind of more of a flat key, I would do it the other way. But I have the materials, they're going to go bad, and I really want to make a nice key for the head display stand, so I might as well just copy this here, you know. So this is like an old piece of foam core I have with a whole bunch of stickers and stuff on it that was my brother's. So I just figured instead of throwing it away, I can use it. So I have to keep the smooth sides in there. So the hot glue gun is kind of going. What I'll do is I'll show you guys what it will look like once it's ready to go. And I'm not worried about the hot glue ripping any paint up or kind of marking this, because like I said, this is going to be all augmented anyway, and I have to repaint all of this. So I might as well just use this and get this key set up like that. So it's going to look a little weird, but as long as I make a nice good box and I pour in the mold, it'll come out really well. So let me go ahead and get this box done, and I'll show you guys the box. And then what I'll do is after I do the mold and pour it in there, I'll show you what it looks like. And then when I'll come back tomorrow when we pop it off, and I'll show you that. We'll make a copy of the key. And then as the video goes on, I'll probably have the head bust. So like I said, this is being done a month in advance. Alright, so here's my box. It looks really like weird looking, as you can kind of see, but I put a hell of a lot of you know, hot glue around the item, around the edges. I used some masking tape. I'm going to put a little duct tape around the box area just to make sure it holds up pretty well. So this process will give me a really, really beautiful copy of a key. You can kind of see what it looks like in there. I'm not really worried that any of the other areas are a mess. I'm not worried that the box or the mold is in like weird shape. That doesn't matter at all. As long as the key is really clean, I can make a nice copy in resin. So I'm just going to put some duct tape around the box real quick. Not any duct tape on the item, because the duct tape I have is super, super strong. And I don't want to really get that all over the item and then take a while to try to get it off. But I'm just going around the item one more time. So what I did do though is that I did pop her off the base, and I put her upside down, and I put a lot of hot glue going underneath around in here. I tried to get a lot of hot glue around there, and I'm just letting this cool up a bit. I just wanted to kind of cure it a little bit more. I'm just going around the item. I've been looking at it in light to make sure there's no like gaps I can see, and I'm just double checking. Now I'm not going to fill it all the way up here. I'm just going to fill it up like halfway in there, just to copy that key. I just wanted to make it high enough so I can actually maneuver this and tape it up a little bit better. But other than that, looking around, we're looking pretty good. So I think, well, there's a little piece over here I'm going to have to hit real quick. Hit it with the hot glue, and then what I'll do is we'll come back once I have the mold poured in. So it's 24 hours later. I didn't show the pouring of it because what happened was I had to pour it and then I had to run out. So it's pretty much, you can see, I only had a little leakage over here, but looking at the rest of it, there's really not much leaking or anything. So as of right now, we're just going to pull it apart the best I can without ripping this or breaking her off the base. So let's see what we can do here. But yeah, so I'm not really seeing much leaking anywhere else. Come off fairly easy. So we'll just kind of pop this down. Like I said, I don't know if the glue is going to hurt the statue at all, but we'll find out pretty soon. Not really too worried about that. Yeah, so we got a fairly good key there now, as you can see. So what I'll have to do is, it's actually not at a bad angle. What I might have to do is put, like, you know, pieces here, and then pour in some resin. Yeah, so the key went up pretty high, so I'm definitely going to have to build a wall with, so what I'll do is I'm going to slice this down, and I'll slice this down, and what I'll do is I'll put foam core, I'll build a box around this, and I'll pour in resin. So it's going to get a little bit messy, but as long as I can get that basic key in there, and I can get this thickness key here, because you can see how, you know, we see the key, so you got to have the wall built up a little bit more. But we'll get that done. So what I'm going to do is I'll cut this up, and then when I get the foam core set up, we'll set something up and we'll make a pour the next time I'm ready to do it. But for right now, I got to sort of get all this stuff off. So I'm pretty sure this won't stick too bad. But like I said, even if it does ruin it, it doesn't matter. It's getting chopped up. So it might make some marks on here, but it doesn't seem to be doing too bad. So some areas are going to be a pain. But yeah, see, it's not killing it in the worst way. If this was like a acrylic painting that I did, you know, with my paints, it would definitely probably be ripping up the paint right now. But since this is the stuff from China, these paints are fairly durable. But I'm gonna go ahead and get all this pulled off, and then hopefully when I get a chance, when we get the bust in, or whenever the continuation of this video goes, we'll make a copy of the key and go from there. Okay, so let's do a little bit of an update on how everything's going. So as you saw, the progress was just a matter of sculpting, cleaning, priming, cleaning, designing, going as I go. This kind of ended up bigger than what I expected. Now, I know I said in the beginning I was thinking of making this hollow, but after some thought, I realized it would be too much of a hassle and a pain. So the whole thing is just going to be solid resin, make it nice and heavy, and it's going to be a really nice piece for displaying the head. Like I said too, you know, it was just for me. Got to make a mold anyway to make a couple copies, so I might as well make a bunch of copies and see if anyone's interested. But I think it'll be a really cool design the way I came up with it. Now, we'll kind of go over what I've been doing. So as right now, it looks messy, but it's actually smooth as hell right now. Because what I've been doing is I've been priming, and I've been wet sanding, and I've been buffing it out, and I've been cleaning up any little marks, any little extra residue. Areas over here, I made sure all this was nice and smooth and uniform. There's a couple spots I still got to kind of clean up, but I have to do some priming. I've noticed that this... you know, 3D print resin, I forget what it's called. It's actually very, very strong, believe it or not. And it does not sand like regular resin or even the Aves. So this stuff is really strong, which is amazing, and I kind of like it because I'm so used to a lot of that other brittle stuff from the beginning of 3D printing, but the stuff is getting better. So this stuff is really, really strong. So I've noticed that if I really want an area to sand down, sometimes you really got to Dremel that out, put some Aves in there, and then sand it down. But you can see there's a lot of putty work and stuff too to kind of make everything uniform. But I'm just going around it, I'm cleaning it all up. I'm also filling up little tiny areas underneath in the belt area, underneath here, underneath over in here, over in there. So you can see little tiny areas of like red A's in there. That's because when I'm ready to make the mold, you don't want your silicone going into these little areas. Because when you demold it, basically when you pop the item out, that resin and that mold gets stuck in the resin and you tear it. So if you tear it in the wrong way, you can actually tear it around here, and then all of a sudden this is like a glob of resin you got to rebuild and everything. So I want to make sure everything is perfect for the molding. Real quick too, when I make the molding, I have to make sure I want to pour it in this direction. I don't want to pour it in this direction because what will happen is this will get all messy. So I want to pour it down. Now the other thing too is, I'm going to try to keep it in the camera. If you have it like this and you pour it in this direction, what will happen is you probably get air bubbles in here. So what I want to do is I need to have this turned almost upwards, but like this. So this way when you pour it in, there's no air bubbles here. If there's any air bubbles over here, I would rather fix up this part on the cape than this part over here. So basically when you pour your resin coming down, it'll fill this up, it'll fill up here, and then it'll fill up going up to this direction. If you have it perfectly flat, you might get air bubbles around these areas here. So I'm going to have it like that. So it's going to be split in two-part resin. There'll be one side here and one side here, and you pour in this direction. Other than that, the heads fit well. So what'll happen is I popped out the exclusive head because I had to double check when I did the cape, and it's a good thing I did because you can see when I was putting the head on there, I had some I was hitting the Aves. So when you put this on here like that, it doesn't hit the cape now on this head. But if I didn't have this head and you designed it with this one, what'll happen is like, oh yeah, it's fine there, but when you put this head on, what would happen is the head would not go and it would look like that because it's hitting the cape. But now it doesn't hit it and it works out pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the other thing too is I needed to design, the brooch and the belt buckle. So I went on eBay and I was searching and I was on Etsy and I found these pieces here. And these kind of have these little marks on it, which I'm not really a fan of. This is kind of more of a older school button, which I think would work good when I do my retro version Power Girl, so I'll utilize these for that one. But I really wanted something nice. So after I got these in the mail, I still went and searched online, and then these popped up in the feed, and this person only had 3 batches of these of 10 left, and I ordered them just to be on the safe side, and it's actually perfect. So what'll happen is I designed it where the rope will be glued into here, and it'll go underneath the arm like so, and then this piece will glue in there, so you have this nice really shiny brooch that's holding up the cape. So this worked out pretty well like that. Now here you don't want to Dremel the hole for the rope really down pretty far, because what will happen is, like I said, the silicone will get in there, and then when you go to demold it, after a couple times, that silicone might get stuck one time, and you tear it, and all of a sudden you rip all this part in your silicone, and then when you make your casting, it's a nightmare. So I just left enough of a piece in here so it's fine. So when I pop these out and I'm ready to start gluing these in, I'll take my Dremel or my drill and I'll drill a better hole in there so this way I could glue this in. Same thing in the back here. I'm not going to Dremel the hole now for molding. What I'll do is each one that I get, what I'll do is I'll just take my Dremel and I'll Dremel a hole, and then what I'll do is I'll cut the rope, I'll glue it in here first, run it underneath the arm, and then I'll glue it in there. And then after that's glued in, I'll lock this piece in there with another drop of glue, and then I'll have it like that. So the other thing too is I designed it underneath the arm with wrinkles like this, because if I didn't do that in the beginning the way it was first designed, when this rope was around this piece, if I wasn't careful, what'll happen is the rope would come up and it would come over the edge. So I needed to lock this in place. So I decided, let me kind of create some wrinkles like it's really tight underneath her arm, and it works out pretty well. So this will lock into place like that. And as far as the belt buckle, what I did is I ordered more buttons just to test them out. These were a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit extras for future projects, because I really like the way these were for the belt. So I designed the belt buckle the way this little bit of a piece over here. So basically, once again, you put a couple drops of glue in there at the very end, and you glue that piece on there, and it'll look like that. So that's kind of what I came up with the belt buckle. Simple, I think it works, and I don't really want to focus too much on it. So all in all, I'm pretty much almost ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and keep cleaning this up. And then once it's all cleaned up, I'm going to order my mold and resin. I got to get my friend's casting gear. And it's going to happen is I'll be casting these up for the end of the summer into the fall. And I'll have them all prepped up, ready to go throughout the fall and winter. And hopefully by Christmas time, maybe I'll have them all done. This is just kind of a side thing, just here and there when I'm in the garage. But I really like the way everything is working on this. And I think it's going to be a really cool piece. So I'm all pretty much set up with all my buttons. I got my rope. Everything's ready to go. And I think this is going to look pretty sick next to the statue when it's all done. So, like I said, I think I need to make 3 for myself. Plus, I get to keep the original. And then I'll cast up as many as I can. And hopefully by the end of the video, you'll see after I mold cast, we'll have all of them painted up. And it'll be up for grabs for anyone that's interested. But all in all, I'm having fun with this one. So, sorry to make that a little bit long, but I just want to kind of catch up and explain what's going on. But, looking pretty good. So, let me get this finished cleaned up. I'll get my order of resin and mold, and then we'll start doing the whole casting process. Okay, so I just got my package in the mail from Meta John in Canada. He's the guy who does my 3D printing. He also does, t-shirts as well. So every time I want like a custom t-shirt just to kind of wear around with some really cool artwork that I love, he can print those stuff onto me. He also is able to do stickers and etching out foam core. So this is like your foam core you can find at like Hobby Lobby. We were going to do stickers first, but his sticker machine was on the fritz. So I said, all right, let's do the foam core. And at the beginning, what I was like, okay, why don't we do a circle here? And then what I could do is I could write the numbers. But he says, why don't we just etch the numbers in? So we have 1 through 19 etched in. So now each one is separated. It's got my logo and everything, my stuff. Power Girl head display, blah, blah, blah. So what I'll do is, so say this is number 1. What I'll write down is I'll write number 1, I'll sign it. And then what I'll do is I'll spray my 3M glue on here. and then what I'll do is I'll glue this on. So just in case ever down the line, you never know, I can't promise anything like, 10, 15 years down the line, if this starts to peel off, at least it'll be signed and numbered at the bottom just to be on the safe side. So I just want to, always try to be a little bit secured on some of my items. With that being said, though, I did a really great job on this, and I'm going to have to grab like a bunch of my white paper that I use in my laser printer, and what I'll do is I'll go in the garage, I'll put a piece of paper down, I'll put this up underneath like this, and I'll spray it with my basically like this. You put your paper down, you go like this, and you spray it with your 3M glue. So this way when you pick it up, you might start to get some residue on your fingers, so you got to be a little bit careful. And then what I'll do is I'll line it up and I'll stamp it on the bottom of the base. And then what I'll do is I'll make sure that all these bases are on a flat surface to kind of give it that weight and really glue it down. And then what I'll do is when I go to the next one, what we'll do is we'll put down another piece of paper, right? And then we'll put down the next one and we'll spray that one. Because what happens is, if you start spraying down one piece of paper and you put this one down, and then you put this one down, and then what'll happen is by the time you get to like the fourth one, this might stick to some glue there. When you rip it up, you might rip this or get residue. So it's better to do 19 pieces of paper or old, cardboard that's in the garage. I could cut out a bunch of pieces, and I could do that so this way, I don't get anything really dirty. And also the other thing too is, I'll probably do 2 or 3 or 4, and then if I start to feel my fingers are getting a little bit caked up, what I'll do is I'll grab some nail polish remover, I'll clean up my fingers, I'll wash my hands real good, and then I'll do another couple more. The reason why I won't wear gloves is because with gloves, you never know if your glove is getting tacky, and then if you grab and you're the bust and you're not paying attention, some of that glue might snag on here or cause residue. So I like to be very clean as much as possible. So I'm going to do all this tomorrow. I just got this in the mail now. I got some other projects going on, but hopefully I'll get all this done. Then what I'll do is we'll get all these busts into the photo setup. We'll finish out the video. I'll explain on how I'm going to be selling these off, so people could get an idea. And once these 19 are gone, that is it. I am not doing any more. This is a hell of a display bust that I went above and beyond on, and I won't be doing any more. Plus the mold is kind of at the moment anyway, so that is that. So I'll get this all set up. We'll come and finish out this video in a few. Okay, so we are all finished up. I'm really happy with the way these came out. I really like the design of them. I like the way it stands out next to the statue too. Actually, I feel that the chest on the bust is better than the chest on the factory sculpt. But at least if you guys pick one up for me when I get these up ready for sale, you can at least have a cool little Power Girl bust that's actually displaying nice on its own now. And that's kind of what I wanted to go for. So let's get a little bit closer, and then what I'll do is I'll take some pictures too, and we'll close out the video of the bust next to the statue with some better pictures. But for now, we'll kind of go over everything one more time, give you guys an idea. So as you can pretty much see, we did a nice sculpt of it. She's got a nice chest. The rope I put in at the end, there's a little bit of that notch I sculpted underneath there, and this goes underneath that notch. Now if I didn't put a notch underneath here, what would happen is this would flip up. Now this is stretchy, so you can stretch it, but now that it sticks underneath that notch in there, it's really not going anywhere. So I added all my wrinkles. I designed the chest and the outfit, like pretty much how I like the Power Girl stuff. I pretty much based it off the way when Adam Hughes started designing her. He started adding these lines and stuff on there. So I kind of like that design the best. Her belt buckle, of course, is not the same belt buckle that she normally has. The problem with that is when I was trying to design it and stuff, things weren't working out. They weren't doing correctly. I tried a few times. So in the end, I decided to do my own stylized belt, only because of molding and casting. You see, if I was to really take this to a whole new level, I would have had to make a mold and cast of a removable part that would glue in at the end. And sadly, I really didn't go that far because I really wanted to utilize these metal buttons, and I kind of like the way it looks now. It's just a stylized bust and everything, so pretty much, if anything, your eye should be going up here anyway, not really down there. And as far as the paintwork goes, I went ahead and painted the reds in sort of like a textured sponge work red to give it like a leather look. That's kind of what I did with that. all the busts at the bottom. As I've shown you guys before, we have all of them are attached at the bottom now. So we have 1 through 19 of these set up. There is magnets in here, so the heads do stay in pretty well. The one thing though is about this EX head is the hair was actually hitting the cape when I first did all my sculpting, so I had to go back in there and really sand all that down. Now I do have a couple of these Power Girls I'm doing for myself, so what I did do is I pulled out a couple of the EX heads and I made sure they all fit, because you never know, sometimes these hairs are not glued on correctly, so I did the best I could with that. Now one of the other things too is I tried to match up her skin tone on her chest to these heads because I wanted these heads to match these as best as possible. Now I understand I put a little bit more browns in there, that's in here, but it does look better with that matching than you can see with the statue, because what happened was the factory of this item screwed up. They actually made the heads really bright, but the skin tone on the legs and the chest are a completely darker color, because I think what they did is the head must have painted in a different part of the factory from the leg. So that was one of the biggest complaints of this statue as far as paint work. As far as sculpt work, it was the chest was too small. But if you saw my past videos, you see that I corrected that. And when I do my future customs off of these statues for my own collection, I'll be working out the chest and redoing it. So that's why I have 2 unpainted here. These 2 are mine. What I'll be doing is when I do my customs of my Power Girls, I'm going to paint these all up at the same time because I like to have everything uniform. But with these, I figured a lot of people aren't repainting them, so I wanted to make sure the skin tone matched the heads as best as possible, so it looks good. And as far as everything else, you can see the back on them. I added these zippers on them too as well, just to kind of add a little bit of something in the back. I didn't want to paint them silver. I just kind of like to add a little something back there in case you do see it. But I stylized the cape too to come underneath for casting reasons, and I chop off the arms because, you know, you can't really go that far with the bust. I mean, I could, but the amount of resin and time and effort would be crazy, and it would be very costly. So just to give you guys an idea, the original sculpt, right? The original sculpt, this is the original, and I filled this in with resin, is almost 1.5 pounds of weight, right? So when I made my mold and I made my copies, one resin piece, what we'll do is we'll put up a painted one, right? We'll put up a painted one, we'll take off the head, make sure she doesn't flop anywhere. And when we look at it, she's a little bit less than 1.5 pounds. So you can see it's a little bit right there, it's about 1 pound. So this is not a light bust. What I'm saying is I really went all out with this one, so it's a lot of resin. This is not just, you know, a Dixie cup full of resin. This is a lot. This is why I can only do 19 of them. But I really wanted these to be heavy, durable, and feel like they got some good quality to them. And then as you can see, what I did is I glued all the bottom pieces to them. So this is number 2 of 19. These bottom pieces went on amazing with the spray glue. I'm really happy with that, and it worked out pretty good. So that is pretty much my design for the head display stand. So like I said, I did 19 of them. I already reached out to the 2 guys that purchased my first Power Girl customs that I did off this statue a few months back, because I told them, I said, hey, I'm making a head display stand. If you're interested, you get first dibs. I reached out to 2 other guys that are Power Girl fans that I've talked to in the past, so they get second dibs. So they pretty much everything is lined up with those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a post today on my Patreon so that any of my Patreon supporters that want one, they get third dibs or first dibs or whatever, and they get it at a discount as well because they're my supporters, and I'm going to give them discounts on it. And then I'll put it up on my website. Like I said, I only have 19 of them, so once they're gone, they're gone. I'm not making any more of these. On my website, and they're going to be a certain price. But I'm going to put like 4 up on eBay, because sometimes people always say, well, I'd rather just purchase off eBay. I don't want to go through PayPal with this. But they'll be up a little bit of a more expensive price on eBay because of all the eBay fees. So if you're interested in it, and I still have them for sale, contact me through my website, and it's always good where I can either send you an invoice or whatever, stuff like that, and we could go ahead and get you a copy of these. But like I said, I'm pretty much done. These took a lot of work: molding, casting, prepping, painting, designing. So I put a lot of effort into these. So I'm trying to sell them off, which I think is a fair price for the amount of work. But like I said, there's only 19 of them. So if you're a Power Girl fan and you want to see what, you know, have display your EX next to the statue, this is what I came up with. So I'm going to close out the video with some nice pictures of the head bust next to the statue. You can get an idea of what it would be like displayed. And then that's pretty much it. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys are interested in it. Contact me for some sales. That'll help me out. It'll help support me to keep going with everything. And let me know in the comments what you think about this. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.